Brethren, I pray you sing a new song. Sing praise in the assembly of the righteous. Let the saints be joyful in glory. Let the high praise of God be on the mouths of the saints and a two-edged sword in their hands to execute vengeance on the demonic nations and punishments on those peoples, to bind their kings with chains. This honor have all his saints. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Sing to him a new song.
A girl from Africa. I mean, there's a lot more like her than she lives like my brother. I mean, obviously, you can't assume that, oh, that, you know, it's this seed. Well, if anybody was standing there, they'd probably say that's hers and not his. I mean,
we're not dealing with what people say in the world. We're dealing with the Bible.
No, I'm just saying with what the realities of DNA is. That's all I'm talking about.
Never mind. We're not going to...
And I understand about the seed, an element of that, but you can negate nonetheless that if you agree to that, then there is contamination, if you will. Even if you say, oh, as long as the man is always the one that's
I mean, we did get charged and say not to deal with the other women, and don't do that. But we still did it. But that son, that kid, is still gonna be an Israelite. But we know in Deuteronomy, somebody got that 7 and 3 real quick. I mean, everything you're saying is good questions and it makes sense. But I got to answer for those questions in the Bible every time. You know? Yeah, he got it.
This is Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 3. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughters thou shalt not give unto his sons.
Hey, so the Most High was going to give us the land of Canaan. He said, don't do what?
Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughters thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take to thy son. For they will turn away thy son.
Or they will what?
For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly.
So that's why he told us not to mingle with the other nations, because they not going to do what we do. It's not embedded in their spirits. You know, if you trying to be a strong man for the Lord and your wife is pulling you away to do something wicked, and she doing that 24/7, eventually she going to catch you up slipping. You know, eventually you're going to be doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. Eventually you're going to be committing sins for your wife. So that's the whole reason why he told us not to deal with the other nations, because they're going to have us, you know, serving other gods, committing fornication, spiritual fornication, you know.
So what does this mean for you in terms of how you address, let's say, the white man? I mean, what is that, or what would you suggest to me? You know, we look at this, we look at what you understand the Bible. I mean, what is your position or your conclusion in that regard?
That's a good question. So, of course, you know, I believe in the Bible. So every time I'm going to use what the Bible say. Give me Revelation 13 and 10. Hold that.
Oh, you also had that second Ezra's on there.
6 and 54?
Yes, you also had that one too.
All right. Check this out. Read that. Hey, so this might come off harsh, you know, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. Read that.
This is second Ezra's, Salakia. Sirach 12 and 6. It says, for the Most High hated sin.
What are you reading? What book are you reading?
That's all right. Ecclesiastes.
Apocrypha.
Oh, the Apocrypha.
Have you ever heard of the Apocrypha?
I've heard of the Apocrypha.
So we got, you got your 1611. We got certain Bibles. We got Bibles that actually has the Apocrypha in it.
I don't think the Apocrypha is inspired.
You don't?
No, I don't think. I mean,
okay, all right. Well, hey, we'll deal with it.
History
We'll deal with it out the Bible. We'll deal with it out. Since you don't subscribe to that, get Revelations 13 and 10. We'll deal with it like that.
This is Revelation chapter 13 and verse 10. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Give me Galatians 6 and 7. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints. Give me Galatians 6 and 7.
All right, so we hold that. Stay right there. We'll come back to it. So you ask your question again, because I wanna actually, you know.
Yeah. So I was just trying to understand what your counsel would be to an Israelite in terms of how they should see the non-Israelites, and what relationship, if any, should there be between those opposing descendants.
Hey, that's a good question. And you know what? Hey, scratch what both of y'all got. Give me Deuteronomy 7 and 6. We're going to keep it simple. Keep it smooth and simple. Hey, give me Deuteronomy 7 and 6. You get Psalms 55 and 21.
It's Deuteronomy 7 and 6. It says.
That's a good question, too. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
God, it says, for thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God.
Hey, who was he talking to in Deuteronomy? Who was Moses talking to? The Israelites. He told you that in 101. Nah, you good.
God, it says, the Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself,
He chose us.
above all people that are upon the face of the earth.
He above everybody. Go
On
ahead.
the face of the earth.
God, it says,
All right, yeah, that's what I wanted. So the main point is, that would be my counsel. First, you got to know that you're a chosen person. And you got to know that all of these, hey, a lot of these white men, if I asked them who they was, they'd say, you know, I'm Russian, I'm white, you know, I'm a cracker. You know, they'd say things like that. But according to the Bible, they don't really know who they are either. But that don't mean I'm going to go out and be their best friend, because they still have that wicked spirit, wicked, deceiving spirit that was placed upon them in the beginning. So even so, this little things like this, I don't like spending my time around people that ain't on the same thing like me. You know, what's the point of being around somebody who's not into the same things as you? That would be my counsel for an Israelite who just now knowing that they're Israelite. I don't.
You mentioned the evil spirits in them, or whatever, however you phrased it. But you know, I've grown up in different neighborhoods where I've seen the evil in a black man as much as the evil in a white man, as much as the evil in a Mexican, or you know, whatever race. So, in my experience, as I have lived with people of different races and different cultures and even in different countries, I have seen true depravity in each of those cultures, regardless of their Christian faith or lack thereof. I mean, that's been, you know, in terms of what you just said, I don't know, I guess I struggle with that kind of a concept, with what I've experienced and from what I know from Scripture.
Okay, check this out.
God, it's Deuteronomy 28:54. It says, so that the man that is tender
All right, so
among you.
Lakia, before we just jump into this verse, we got to understand what's going on in this chapter. So Deuteronomy chapter 28. Lakia. Yeah, you can read 15. Give you a little bit of understanding what's going on. Read
God, is verse 15. 28, chapter 28, verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
Hey, so Moses was telling the Israelites, if you don't keep the commandments and you don't hearken and do what's right, all of these curses are going to come upon thee and overtake thee. And they tell you in Daniel, just to solidify it, that, hey, the Israelites didn't listen. That's why all of these curses was upon them. They tell you that in Daniel. Go to 54. So,
Verse 54.
So when you read chapter 28, it's a list of curses that was placed upon the Israelites for not listening, for not hearkening. Now read 54. So this is one of the curses.
It says, so that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother.
He said his eye would be evil towards his brother. What does that mean? What does that mean, your eye being evil towards your brother?
I mean, you're wicked, you have hatred, or, you know, I mean, there's many ways to describe it. But,
Hey,
you know,
perfectly put. You have hatred towards your brother, and you see that a lot amongst our people. Hey, it's sometimes when you walk past somebody, you know, of our nation, they'll look at you up and down like, you know, you better not say nothing wrong, I'm gonna beat you up type deal. But when you see two white people walk past each other, they're like, hey Brad, hey buddy, you know, how was today, you know? But amongst our people, read that again.
God, it doesn't happen just amongst black people. In this country, maybe it's that way. If I go to another country, it's the exact same thing.
You can say that, but as a whole nation, not person upon person, but as a whole. Now, I'm not saying every black person that I see, I don't do that. Hey, but you have that as a majority and as a whole when you go into these different sections of the world.
Certain cultures,
our people,
yes.
Exactly.
I mean, I've been in cultures where it's not the case, and I've visited other countries where it's not the case.
And like, what? Just for shits and giggles, what country did you see that in?
I mean, when I was in Swaziland, I mean,
Where's Swaziland?
It's in, you know, South Africa.
So,
it's landlocked inside of South Africa.
And that's a beautiful point. So even in Exodus, I think it's 11 and 7. You can go there real quick. We not the same. When you see me and an African, you can tell that we two different types of people. So like even when you look at a Japanese and an Asian person, even though they look alike, they'll tell you that they two different people. They got two different heritage, two different genealogies. So
So you're not African? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not African.
You're of African descent.
I'm not African. No. They have a whole different forefather. That's Ham. We Shem.
Zondervan?
Who is
Zondervan?
And I'm gonna show you in the Bible that he puts a difference between us. Read that.
No, I know. When you say Shem, I mean Ham. I know what you're talking about. So,
all right. Well, what this verse is just gonna say that the Lord put a difference between Israel and the Egyptians. So it's a difference between us and Africans. But you did have Israelites who was over there in Africa, because we was fleeing Roman persecution and fled to West Africa. So of course, and they tell you in Deuteronomy 28:64 that we was going to be scattered and mingled amongst all nations. So that's still into play. That's still in the play. That's still a curse. That's a curse in 28 in chapter 28 that we read now. That's actually a curse that was put on the Israelites. You can go anywhere and you can be like, damn, it's Hispanics here. Damn, it's Negroes here.
Well, the reason I was saying, because you have African Americans in this who are from Africa, so I thought you were trying to assume
So-called African Americans, because that's not really who we are. How can we be African and American?
African slave in America, African slaves came from Africa.
But that's the thing. How can you be two continents? How can you be African and American? You can't be two things, especially not when you put into play Numbers 1 and 18, and it goes off
I
your
understand what
forefathers.
you're saying. So I scratched that. So there's Africans in these pictures. So that's why I would assume that you were assuming that they were also part of the tribes.
Hey, you can say Africans, but we know that they Israelites.
So Africans are Israelites or from Ham? Or they're not?
Africans are Hamites. Israelites are Israelites. They Shemitic. They come from Shem.
Okay, so we're talking about Africans. So I don't know.
What about the Africans?
They fit the curses. Or swap.
Is he part of the Israelites?
So-called African Americans, they are Israelites. Does that make sense? All right, give me Deuteronomy 28 and go ahead.
Con, this is Psalm 78 and 51. It says, and smote all the firstborn in Egypt, the chief of their strength in the tabernacles of Ham. So, like he said, that's it's a different people.
No, I understand they're different people. I don't negate that. I understand that. There's a little bit of history there. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, well, my initial question was the enslavement of Africans here in America.
Yeah.
Were those Israelites or not?
Yeah, definitely, and that's a curse. We're gonna get to that. Times. So the Israelites, they fled into West Africa, fleeing Roman persecution, and from there, the Africans, they had even like small armies and garrisons go and attack the Israelites and confine them and sell them to white people, and that's how they was brought to America. But they wasn't Africans; they was Israelites. That making sense a little bit? And that's documented in the Bible that would happen.
I mean, there was Africans from all over Africa that came or brought as slaves. It wasn't just a particular region of
Hey,
that.
Babylon.
Hey, but the
Mostly,
main,
yes, mostly West Africa.
Exactly.
But
hey,
nonetheless,
you got that Babylon and
That's what I was
Timbuktu?
going to say. Babylon and Timbuktu.
Hey, get that Timbuktu. Hey, cause bro, when you leave here, you're gonna have something to think about. That's my main goal. I'm not trying to convert you. I want you to think about these things. Cause they don't talk about this in the church. Fuck it, we don't get there. I mean, he's showing love, man. He got patience. He asking good questions. I mean, we not in a rush.
you probably got other people you probably want
Nah,
to
bro, you straight. You straight.
I don't
Page
wanna,
84.
We out here for you.
I'm not trying to take up the people's time.
Page,
No,
page 84.
Nah, yeah, we talked to them earlier. You straight, trust me. What you, 81?
84.
84? Con. Yeah.
God, this is Babylon and Timbuktu. Page 84, it says, during the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery. The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves.
And you know about the transatlantic slave trade.
Yeah.
God, that's historical evidence. And now when we go into the Bible, how come it tells us the same thing? Bring that out. So this is actually a curse that was put upon the Israelites too. We still in Deuteronomy 28:68. So this is some part of the reason that we can really understand. It's a prophecy that we understand was only put upon the Israelites, but it happens to so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. So we gotta put that into play. We gotta only think that we are the so-called, not the so-called, but we are the Israelites because these prophecies happen to us. And it's documented in the Bible that it happened to the Israelites. You see the relation I'm trying to make? So the things that the Most High said would happen to the Israelites, they happen to us. So we would have to be Israelites. You hear that? All right.
This is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68. Come on. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again.
Give me Exodus.
I got it already.
Can I read that?
God, so this is the book of Exodus, chapter 20 and verse 2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
Hey, so that precept showed you that we was in bondage in Egypt, but it also showed you that Egypt is represented as, it's a term represented as bondage. So when you see the word Egypt, it's not always necessarily talking about Egypt. It could be talking about bondage in general or slavery.
Sometimes and sometimes it's specifically referring to.
Exactly. You got to be able to discern. And you know, other nations, they don't have that discernment. They wasn't given that. But like I was saying, go back to that.
This is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again.
He said he will bring you into slavery again. But hold on. If it was talking about Egypt, when did the Israelites go into Egypt again as a whole nation? There's no account of that in the Bible. It's not in there. So what is it talking about? It's talking about slavery. It's talking about bondage. Read that from the top.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee.
I got to touch on that. He said he would bring you into slavery again with ships. And we know we got run from the west coast of Africa into the Americas with ships. Everybody can't say that they went into slavery with ships. Not as a whole nation. Not as a whole. Everybody can't say that.
Captivity on the back of a dollar bill. You got the pyramid, because it represents spiritual Egypt.
Go ahead.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again.
Hey, and by the way he spake unto us, that thing really happened. We really did go into slavery by ships. Come on.
And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies.
He said we would be sold unto our enemies for what?
For bondmen,
For slave men
and bondwomen,
and slave women.
and
what?
no man shall buy you.
And when it says buy, when you go into that word, all it means is redeem. That's why we still in the land of our oppressors, because nobody has came and redeemed us. He told you the Redeemer gonna come out of Zion. It's gonna be who y'all call Jesus. That's the only person who can save us out of this captivity. That's the reason why we in captivity. Give me proof for it.
So let me pause for a second. So you're basically isolating that passage to talk about the Israelites that came or were brought to the Americas. And is it not talking about at that time about the other Israelites, about the Jewish nation, descendants of
Jewish
David?
nation. When you say
Descendants-
Jewish, I get this, is we don't deal with the Jewish. We know the Jewish people,
Well,
they are in Jerusalem right now in our land, but they not
People from Judah.
Okay,
People of Judah.
Okay, Judah.
I mean, I just assume it was common terminology, but maybe not.
No, I mean,
So you're making references to those slaves being brought in ships to the African Israelites, the Israelites living in Africa.
that's what I'm
It is
making reference to.
excluding, you're saying,
That's what it's
the
talking
Israelites who weren't in Africa. Is that what you're saying?
Ain't no Israelites. I mean, it could have been Israelites born in Africa, but what I'm saying from this verse, we know that the Israelites was brung into slavery via ships. That's all I'm saying. That's the relation. And we know that we was brung here via ships. That's the relation. It ain't got to be too deep or nothing. That's what it says.
So what would you say whenever the Israelites were taken into captivity by the Babylonians, and they spent 70 plus years in captivity,
Yeah.
and then they were eventually freed when Cyrus came with the Medes and the Persians. So they were able to hold on to their understanding of God, to their knowledge of God, to all these different things. The Sabbath being one of those key elements that they were able to retain even in the midst of captivity, of oppression, and so forth, and whatever. What distinguished them then than the other Israelites that we're talking about, who have, even if you're talking about the Indians who are over here, or those that are, how come they have completely shunned away the truths of God, and the people of Israel, as we know them through the descendants of David and so forth and so on, they maintained and held on to their knowledge of God and their practice of their religion?
That's a great question, and it's a couple things I got to touch on, because you touched on a lot of different areas, different captivities. So what I would say to start it off, yeah, we did go into captivity, Babylonian captivity, the Persians and Medes, but not how we went into this captivity, and not for that long. It has never been a captivity like this for this long. We was in Egypt for 400 years, but this is over 400, and we forgot who we are. Give me that Jeremiah 17:4.
God, this is Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 4. It says, "And thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever."
So he told you, you're going to be taken to a land of your enemies, and you're going to be discontinued from your heritage. So another thing I would say to add more add more, just to hit the nail on his head again. You said, Salakia. You said, Salakia. You said the Babylonian captivity. Salakia. Did we go into the Babylonian captivity via ships? Exactly. So that's another way that you can discern, because they tell you in the Bible how we went into captivities, and you can look at certain maps and look at the actually geography of them histories and actually study that and see that we didn't go into captivities via ships. Now you had another question in the midst of that, or another point that I want to touch on, but I lost train of thought a little bit. So if you do remember that, one of the questions that I didn't answer, ask it again if you remember.
Well, I mean, there were other nations. I mean, the people of the sea, when they would come and they would try to, I lost my
navigate.
What's the people that, whenever they carried away the temple, man, I forgot when the temple was, not the temple, when the Philistines, yes, sorry. I mean, the Philistines, obviously they had come over, through ships. They were originally from there. There was parts of Europe that they had come, they were referred to as the people of the sea. So there was times when they were under the oppression of the Philistines and other people. So there were other times where they very easily could have been taken away in ships, not just to the Americas.
But it's that people that
there was a big ocean, right there to the left.
But it's that the people that thou knowest not, to a land thou doesn't know.
Right.
We knew that land. We took over the Philistines' land. We took the land of Canaan. So that wouldn't make sense. That
no, but I'm
wouldn't fit
saying
that purpose.
they weren't only in that main land of. Yeah, they weren't only in that main land of the Middle East. I mean, they were definitely connected to other islands and other parts of
the Philistines.
Yeah, the Philistines and other nations that were around them as well, that were on that coastal area. I mean, what I'm saying is, there was a coast right there, and ships were readily available
the
to
Mediterranean.
The Mediterranean area, all that right there. I mean, obviously there were ships. I mean, it's a good point because I don't have evidence that was the case, but I'm saying there was that possibility that there could have been enslavement through those, whether it was a part of a tribe or particular groups of people, not necessarily the whole nation.
Hey,
so,
you can try to apply it to that, but to me it won't make too much sense. Just based off the text alone, it says that it'd be taken to a land and to people it's not, and you'll be sold for bondman enslavement. That didn't happen in history with the Philistines. If it did, it would have been documented. We always have scribes. Things like that was always documented.
You have some stuff that we haven't found, and things that you don't find later on. I mean,
right.
I'm not saying it was or it wasn't. I'm just saying that's definitely an option. I guess my biggest point was they lost their understanding of God,
right.
And they disconnected themselves with God in such a way where there was no remnants of their religion or their faith or whatever you want to call it back to God. When other times, even the Egyptians, when they were in Egypt for 400 plus years, they still maintained an element of their understanding of God. But yeah, you don't see this through the Mexicans or through the Africans.
I can't say that. I can't agree
They
to that.
eventually found the gospel when the white man or whatever reestablished it, obviously incorrectly at times, but nonetheless.
This is why I can't all the way get down with that statement, because you have Native Americans. You will see certain pictures. Do we got that picture up here? It's a little girl. She could be Native. She could be Gad. And look at her. What's she wearing on her garments? She got fringes on. It's certain practices that natives would keep, as when people die, if they touch the dead, they would be unclean. There's certain rituals and certain dances and certain songs and certain prayers they would do. That's the same thing that our people did. It's all throughout history. So-called Hispanics. You got some information? So-called. Bring it up.
This is the Aztec god, the Cucklin.
Oh yeah.
It's a serpent, basically. It's a feathery serpent. And in Isaiah 6:2 it says, above it stood the seraphims. Each one had 6 wings. With twain he covered his face, and with twain he covered his feet, and with twain he did fly. That's how the Cucklin god looked. And then you go into the word for the seraphim is a serpent, a fiery serpent, a poisonous serpent. A majestic being with 6 wings, human hands, voice, attendance upon God. Basically, the Aztecs got that god from
the scriptures.
The scriptures.
And you can go into Isaiah 6:2 and it tell you how the celestial beings, or the angels, if you will, how they carried themselves. And they described it perfectly with 6 wings. They tell you about it in Ezekiel chapter 1, how the angels looked, how they was bronze, how fast they moved. How you had one side was the face of a lion, certain things like that.
No, I agree, and I am a proponent of the fact that even in many cultures that are disconnected with the mainframe Christianity or whatever, have reminiscences of these different things that are biblical in nature. You know, even if you're talking about accounts of the flood, or whatever. I mean, there's definitely these connections. What I'm saying is, their practices. You know, as a matter of fact, they're quite the opposite. They're very pagan in nature, I would even say satanic in nature. From my people to whatever they're talking about. I mean, completely disconnected. And they nowhere are honoring God, nor is it bringing glory to His name or worshiping Him in any way, shape, or form. And that's, I guess, what I have a struggle with, trying to say, oh, my people, because I'm Mexican, I'm probably Levi then. No, that's my people have done atrocities just as much as any other people.
Give me Baruch 4:6. Hey,
You mind if I add something? So, and the reason why there was, what do you call it, the Paleo Hebrew writings that is found in the Aztecs, the temples and stuff like that, that shows evidence and proof also that you all spoke Hebrew. Not just Hebrew, but Paleo Hebrew. Not everybody did. You know what I'm saying? So that's more of an evidence to your people that you would be Israel. You know what I'm saying? So, and then the fringes, like the brother said, the Aztec warrior garments, they wore fringes, which is given to the Israelites. You know, that shows even more evidence that your people would be Israel.
Hey, and just to piggyback off what he said, not to bombard you with information. Hey, you had the indigenous people, they would, do war paints. That's documented in the Bible. That's something that we did. That's why you have, white people, they like, I know it's probably when I say white people, but we got to identify them as who they are. Edomites. They like to take everything that we do and make it theirs. When you invent something, they take it and they say they invented it. That's kind of how they get down. They kind of just really like to take, and it's even prophesied in the Bible that they blessing would be the sword. That's what they good at. It's taking, stealing, deceiving. Stealing whole nations of people.
Well, I mean, the honest truth is, that's the case. If you go to Africa, they do it amongst themselves. You go to Latin America, they do it amongst themselves. It's not so much against. Yeah, it happens cross racially. I understand. I agree, but it happens just as much. I mean, if you put a bunch of Mexicans and Colombians and Brazilians, they're going to fight each other.
Because they probably think they are different people. But the fact of the matter
is, you put
is,
Mexicans with Mexicans, they're going to fight each other.
Hey, and my reason for that is 2864. I mean, fuck it, 2864. It's the curses that was put upon our people for not keeping the commandments.
But it's still not an excuse, though. I'm saying.
I mean, it's not an excuse, but it makes sense.
Not an excuse in the sense of, we can say that the Edomites do it, but then the people of God don't do it. I mean, we do the exact same thing.
I mean, we do because that was put upon us as a curse.
Right. So there's no distinction, no differentiation between what we do and we do.
It is
in terms of what we do.
Hold on. What have your people ever taken over a land and killed millions of people?
I'm sure if they had the opportunity, they would do it.
They did it.
They didn't do it, yeah.
White people.
All right.
Hey, that's a good point.
I mean, are we talking about that? I mean, yeah. I mean, I've lived in Mexico. I have family that lives in Mexico. They kill each other for land. I mean, it happens all the time. I mean, at some at greater scheme. And often because they don't have the power and the ability, the tools, or the military to do it.
Do they go from land to land?
I mean, if Venezuela could do it, they would do it in his government. If the president of
why can't they
Nicaragua could do it?
Hey,
why can't they don't have the military power? You don't think Fidel Castro wouldn't have tried to do it if he had the military power? Of course he would have done it. He tried.
So
he did it.
But he
so
tried.
would you be able to, Slaki, would you be able to find who you are according to the Bible? Would you be able to find who you are? Like, what would be your nationality?
Yeah,
well, I mean, other than this, like, what would be your nationality? Like, how could you distinguish who you would be in the Bible?
I don't know that I could, and I don't know that the Bible calls me to do that, or that would affect my relationship with Christ.
It would affect your relationship with Christ even better, even more so, because the promises belong to you, according to the Romans 9. You know what I'm saying? It talks about, somebody want to pull that? Romans 9? He just pulled it out earlier.
Yeah,
but
he got it.
Okay, go
This
ahead.
is what you're talking about. This is Job 8:8. For I inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to search of their fathers.
Hey, and that's something that we have to search out. It's important to know who you are. Hey, somebody say, if you don't know the past, you don't know where you're going. You heard that before? Hey, if you don't know who your father is, how you gonna navigate through what you're supposed to be doing in this lifetime? If you don't know that you're an Israelite, you're gonna walk like you're a heathen, like you're a Gentile. So that's our whole thing. We just trying to let our people know that they're the God's chosen people.
I mean, I know I'm a son of Adam. I mean, obviously that's.
All right, let me get you something. Hey, so I know you don't subscribe to the Apocrypha, but somebody give me that. We're gonna, the time and the place for everything, and this is the right time to bring out this scripture. Give me that. Second Ezra 6. It's Isaiah 40. So we're gonna link it up for you. He said, "I'm a son of Adam." We all come from Adam. This is true, but he always chose somebody out of who he was dealing with. Read that.
God, this is 2 Ezra chapter 6, 54. It says, "And after these, Adam also, whom thou madest Lord of all thy creatures, of him come we all."
So he's saying, hey, Adam, everybody come from Adam. Of him come we all. Come on.
"And the people also whom thou hast chosen."
Hey, now he's saying also the people thou hast chosen. They also come of Adam. Come on.
"All this have I spoken before thee, O Lord, because thou madest the world for our
He
sakes,
said he made the world for the chosen people's sakes. Come on.
and for the people, and as for the other people which also come from Adam."
Hey, so he disregarded the other people. He said the chosen people, you made the world for them, but for the other people who also come of Adam, come on.
"Thou hast said that they are nothing."
He said they ain't nothing. Read that.
This is Isaiah chapter 40 and verse 17. "All nations before him are as nothing."
He's saying the same thing. All nations before him as a nothing. Is that applying to us? No, because he already told you in Deuteronomy 7:6 that we're his favorite people. God, go ahead.
And they are counted to him less than nothing and vanity.
Hey, he said they counted to him as less than nothing. You got nothing, but then you got less than nothing. That's, real low. Go ahead, though. We're going to go back over here.
It says, "Thou hast said that they are nothing, but be like unto spittle, and has likened the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel."
Hey, he said they like spit, bro. It don't get no more lower than spit. Then he said what?
"And now, O Lord, behold, these heathen, which have ever been reputed as nothing, have begun to be lords over us, and to devour us. But we thy people, whom thou hast called thy firstborn, thy only begotten, and thy fervent lover, are given into their hands. If the world now be made for our sakes, why do we not possess an inheritance with the world? How long shall this endure?"
So Ezra, he had all of these questions for the Most High. He's saying, look, man, we all come from Adam, but you chose us, but they over us. If you make the world for our sakes, why are we not ruling the world? That's how it was created. We was set up from the beginning to teach all the other nations what they were supposed to be doing. But then you have us going off.
But teach it for what? Like, what would you want to teach the nations if they're not to be saved?
What?
You said to teach the other nations?
Teach them how to serve the Most High.
Okay, so,
but they not God's chosen people.
Right, so why would they need to serve the Most High?
Everybody needs to serve the Most High.
But if they're not going to be saved, what's in it for them? You know what I mean?
No, the reason why we have to be saved is because we went off. So we need saving from our enemies.
Oh, I thought you said to teach the other nations.
How to keep the commandments, how to serve the Most High. Give me
but
Deuteronomy
for the
6.
Israelites or for the other nations?
For the other nations. We're supposed to
the
get
Gentiles.
the whole world in order. Yes.
The Gentile people.
Yes. That's what I was saying. You had it correct.
So that
why would we teach them that?
Yeah, what would we teach? What's the logic?
The logic is the Most High created all these other people, but he chose a particular people to deal with.
No, but that doesn't answer the question. Why would they need it?
The other people, we're supposed to get them in order. But they not going to be over us. We're going to be over them.
There's a hierarchy.
So why do we need to teach them God's ways?
Because that's what he told us to do. You don't question the Most High. But right now, we focus on us because we need saving. We the ones who...
They can't be saved, but then we need to teach them God's ways. Is that right?
They can't be saved. What do they need saving from?
From sin.
What's
All of us need saved from sin.
We see very clearly that every time Israel went off, they got judged and got punished. The heathen, there's judgment in here for the heathen. So you're telling me just because they repent, they can escape that judgment when we couldn't? God's chosen people couldn't escape that judgment, but the heathen can escape the judgment by repenting. We had good people. We had good people
God
in
always
slavery.
calls his people to repentance.
He does call his people to repentance.
Right.
Right.
So they have a
Israel.
chance to repent. So I'm not saying.
No, we already told you that in Slovakia. What is that? Acts 5 and 30. But once we get in line, then that's when we get in line all of the other nations.
Yeah.
We don't just get in line for no reason. We get in line behind Jesus, and he get in line behind God. But these other nations get in line behind us.
That's right.
For no reason. They get in line.
No, this is the reason. Isaiah 14 and 1 through 2.
All
Why would I want to?
All right, hold on. Let's see what he.
Isaiah 14 and 1 through 2. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place.
Hey, so we're gonna take the strangers, the heathens, the Gentiles to our place.
And the house of the and the house of Israel shall possess them
Hey, so he said we're gonna possess them and what?
in the land of the Lord.
So we supposed to possess them. We literally gonna have possessions. Just how we was possessed here in America as slaves, as handmaids, as concubines. That's how we can possess them, but in righteousness in the land of the Lord. Come on.
In the land of the Lord, for servants and handmaidens. And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors.
Hey, and it's that simple. We're gonna take them captives, whose captives they were, and we're gonna rule over our oppressors. And we're not just gonna roll over them how they rolled over us. We're gonna roll over them with the law, statutes, and commandments.
That's
We're
right.
gonna roll over them in righteousness. That kind of cleared it up a little bit. Yeah.
I mean, I can see what's in it for quote unquote us,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
It
yeah,
is about
for us.
us. It's
then-
always been about
But
us.
why would they in any way want to be in line when?
They not gonna. Hey, give me Isaiah 60 and 12.
Because they're not going.
It's like, hey, I got it. Isaiah 60 and 12. Real quick. Give me, and then we can jump back to what you got. Isaiah 60 and 12. It ain't. Hey, he even tell you in Luke, I believe it's 19 and 21. Somebody, I'll check that real quick while he get that.
Isaiah chapter 60 verse 12.
I got it. Read it.
For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish.
Hey, if they don't want to serve us, they gonna perish, bro.
Yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted.
And hey, that's at the Lord. It's like, let me check this out real quick. That's not what I want. Maybe it's 21 and 19. No, that's not it. But that's the it tell you Yahushua, he said, if they would not serve you, bring them hither and slay them before me. Hey, and that's all it is. If they don't want to get down with what we doing, then they don't get knocked off. Just how whenever we were slaves under them, if we didn't want to serve them and we disobeyed them, what did they do? They whipped us, killed us, fed us to alligators. They did all of these atrocities. Hey, go to Revelation 13 and 9.
Hold on, this is Luke chapter 19 and verse 27. But those mine enemies, which thou would not that I should reign over them, bring hither and slay them before me.
And that's what the Lord said. That's in red writing. The Lord said, if they don't want to bow down, bring them hither and slay them before me. And we literally gonna have the power to do that. Now, if you go back to Psalms 137, he tell you we're gonna have a two-edged sword in our hands. He tell you when Jesus come back, we actually gonna get our spiritual bodies and we're gonna be able to do these things. We're gonna roll over them with a rod and iron, as it tell you in Psalms 28. He said we're gonna have possessions, and our possessions gonna be men. It's not just gonna be land. Our kingdom is gonna be a kingdom like no other kingdom. You can't even explain it. We got precepts that try and explain it, but we got a lot coming to us, not just how their kingdom is. You got something? All right, bring it up.
This is Micah 4 and 2. And many nations shall come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord and to the house of God of Jacob, and he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem.
So we gonna be you got God, you got Jesus, you got King David, then you got the 12 apostles, and you got a hierarchy. Then you got the 12 tribes of Israel. You got the governing body, you got the 144. Then you're gonna have regular Israelites in the kingdom. Then you're gonna have other nations all the way at the bottom. It's always gonna be order. It's not gonna be out of order like this kingdom, where you can get away with, shooting a man and not get sentenced for it. Where you can kill an Israelite dead in the street, shoot him in the back, and not get in trouble for it. It's not gonna be out of order like that. So that's the whole reason why we first gotta get Israel together and not focus on them. Get ourselves together so the Most High can come back and give us that power. Because we're not gonna be able to save ourselves out of this captivity. Ain't nothing that we can do The only thing that we can physically do is keep the commandments and return back to the Lord. Because He's going to be the one who set it all in order. You know, we're not out here going out here stabbing people and shooting them. We doing what the Most High told us to do. Come out into the highways and teach.
I know I don't want to. I have to go pretty quick, but as I'm looking at what the arguments that you're making, I mean, I see two different things that you're talking about: the Old Testament, the New Testament. In the Old Testament, you're reading passages where Israel is going to oppress or be ruling over, or have lordship over the Gentiles, whatever.
They tell you in Revelations too.
The New Testament is talking about salvation being for the Jews, which I understand what you're trying to say, that it's for the Israelite people. So I mean, I don't agree with your premise, but I